Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everybody. Thanks a lot for joining us. We are here and we are live, and we are here live on a Monday. It's been a wee while since we've been live at 4 o'clock on a Monday, but we've done a few times over the last few weeks to tackle some of those kind of bigger topics, those kind of developing bits and pieces that have been going on coming out of the weekend. And for once, this is a topic that is pretty much one of the first times I'm going to try and tackle directly with you guys that are here in the live chat. And the idea of the stream, if you've clicked on it, you'll obviously know what we're getting up to today. But I want to just put some of my thoughts and feelings out there. I want to get a real grasp on all the thoughts and feelings that are coming back from you guys in the live chat. And hopefully that, alongside all the other discourse that's going in and around the thing, we can make a bit more of a concise and to the point, pros and cons type of video situation for the DNP, the whole sub thing as well. So I'm looking forward to getting stuck into this one. At point of recording, we're live. It is quarter. Joining the dark side? No, well, let's see. Depends what you think the dark side is, Harry boy. But at point of recording, we're at 4:15. The kids' football is in a little while, so my Mondays and my Wednesdays are very tight, constricted when I can go on and do stuff. And the plan is tonight is I want to be back for some MFL Monday Night Football, because the community team, against all the odds, guys, it's all about the fans in the stadium, smashing the like button when we're doing the match days on a Monday, as well as obviously the effort the guys are putting in at training. Anyway, so I want to do that later tonight. So this is kind of my only time in the day to get stuck in with some Sorare stuff. Celtic had a pretty big game this game week, and I spent a little bit too long preparing that video, and hopefully it turns out pretty well. But it basically took up all my morning. On top of that as well, I'm just back from Belfast. I went to see big boy John Nellis, and he really is big man in town, by the way. I can't even tell you, by the way, but so great seeing him. You'll see some good. John's up to some big stuff as always, as you might imagine. Great seeing him, and I'm probably one of the very few people in history that goes to Belfast and comes back with jet lag, just with the time of my flights and when I went to bed and when I had to get up to go and to come back, and I've been all over the shop. So my Monday is really evaporated from me. So I thought, let's go live. I can just put some stuff out there. You guys can challenge me on anything I'm saying. I can see what you guys are thinking and feeling in a more kind of concise way. I've got my notepad and pen, and then we'll be able to just, build a much more of a proper pros and cons situation. And then at which point maybe we'll have a better idea on what some options could be for us, because there's no getting away from it. I guess I'll kind of open the forum up with this as I set my notepad in front of me. Fist bumps to everyone on arrival. Smash the like button. And because there is there's no getting away from it. That DNPs is it's something that disconnects you from the game. There's no two ways about it. There's no, when you've got a team, especially when you're going for streaks and these types of things, and you set your team at the deadline, you've got all possible available information, and then something very public, very accessible becomes known long before the game begins, or long enough before the game begins, where, could there be a solution? Could there be something that we do there? There's a lot of common theories and solutions that go out there that could be possible ones. And again, we'll kind of evaluate them all in. But I have suffered DNPs. I'm in the top 95 percentile, I suffer from DNPs as much as anyone. I've suffered from them, I would say, in a lot of cases, more so than the average man, just down to some of the teams that I've been backing and collections I've been building or whatever. And then obviously get longevity on the game. So I've been burned by every type of DNP. I've been burned by DNPs that stop you winning stuff. I've had DNPs that have stopped me missing out on podiums, on top 10s, top 20s, top 100s, on getting something rather than nothing, promotions, relegations, all of it, So I've got those battle scars. I have those war stories just like you. And so I've kind of seen it and felt it myself. There's a lot of you coming in live and loud, and I want to get the chat involved as quickly as I can. So fist bumps to everyone on arrival before we get stuck into it. Like a dog eating beetroot. Ugo, good to see you, my man, as well. If you are watching on YouTube or Twitch, please do hit the like button on the stream. Subscribe for more, all that good stuff as well. And Gaza's the first one that comes in here. Now, I want to say, by the way, Liam King, my heart breaks for you. Number one, why was the spot kick the thing that screwed you? Did you need the penalty one decisive action to be converted? Or what was the script there? My heart bleeds for you. But surely you did all right this game week, did you not? But Gaza's the first one that comes in with some sort of topical kind of suggestion or whatever, right? And I think the sub one is an interesting one because it's the only mechanism that Sorare hasn't tested yet. When they did the Sorare podcast on their own channel, that was one of the main negatives, one of the main criticisms that came out off the back of that, was that they said that they tested everything. And they'd also alluded to subs will be coming. That was kind of that was a feeling that came out of that podcast, as well as the quote that they gave us directly. And that fell off because they've not tested subs. And it's funny how that seems to be the primary yin to the yang of the DNP problem solution situation. But here's Gaza. One sub per lineup, must locked, like other players, only becomes active at the end of that lineup last game, and only if the player doesn't feature. If comes on as a sub, tough. And I think a lot of what Gaza says here is right on the money and is right where a lot of things need to be. Because just to give something on screen that's not just me, because one at camera is a bit boring for you guys, I think, isn't it? If we go and put some shiny, no, I'm not going to do it. But if we're going to put some shiny things up on screen, just to sort of paint some sort of picture. Here's the Road to Glory team for the weekend. So this is a fun one to use as a kind of visual demo. And then let's pop me in the corner. There we go. So what Gaza's saying is when we set these lineups, we pick one sub and we designate that the sub, and it would have maybe like and we're maybe thinking about this maybe a wee bit too much in some aspects, but whatever. But it's maybe like a little tiny icon somewhere, a little bench situation, a little seat, a little tiny card could be sitting on. And at the end of the game week, if we see that any of these guys did fully DNP, the sub comes into effect and we get their score added to the lineup, rather than because even here, Morgan Gibbs White, Harvey Elliott and Oscar Bob, both these guys came off the bench. So in this lineup, I might have been sitting with one sub with two guys on the bench, thinking if one of them doesn't come on and do well, or if both of them don't come on, period, then I've got the sub fallback guy. Okay. Now, I think that is a situation a lot of people can get behind. Let me know what you think about Gaza's pre-lock sub. Is that something you would want? Is that an element of this that you think would work well? Is that an element of this that you think is important? I'm not too sure. I think like part of the thing. So the first thing I want to say before we kind of get any deeper, right, is I don't think any DNP solution is going to be broad stroke, is going to be widespread, is going to be uniform, base level in the game. I think whatever the next thing is, the DNP solution is going to be a selective element of the game, right? So if you think back to when MLS came out for this year, it was the first element of having streaks available where they really tested that out, and it was only in the MLS comp. We also had late roll and lock kind of situation be unveiled with like Premier League and that kind of thing as well. So they've already shown, and I think there's been a general acceptance that we can have different rules for different competitions. And I think that's an important thing I want to kind of plant in the ground early on, is this conversation has to be focused around in season, doesn't it? Because really with multi-entry, with arena, and with SO7, utility, which is one of the main things we want to make sure we're not missing on for guys that are DNP, and we don't want that to kill streaks. We don't want that to kill good key other players that are nailed on to play and do play well. But it is also a matter of the game as well, as part of the yin and the yang to this. So I think like the reason I'm so, I would say, set in that regard is in-season cards are the only ones that have a time limit on them for utility for that. And, you can use one classic. I get that, fine. But in terms of going for streaks, going for leaderboards, the primary reason for acquiring the strategy for buying the cards is to play the 25-26 season, is to play Sorare 26. So I can get fully behind anything that we're going to discuss in an in-season context. Where you start to lose me, or where I start to think it becomes too much of a potential headache or problem in a lot of different ways, no matter how you want to think about it or dress it up, is in the classic competition. Because, I've got cards and teams of all shapes and sizes, and, maybe they're quite indicative of, I don't know, the average kind of player or whatever. I don't know. In some aspects, yes. In other aspects, probably no. But DNPs, not only, like, we know the consequences of somebody being out, it could open up some avenues for you to do better, etc. And equally, it can kill one of your teams and take you out. I think when you've got multi-entry SO7, that is kind of maybe part of the philosophy with multi-entry, is that you can hedge your bets, you can cover your bases. Now, with the champ strategy here, it's maybe not actually a terribly great example because it's a regional thing versus like my Celtic cards, for example. The Celtic primarily feature an all-star, but because we've got the ability to do multi-entry, in-season is probably a good example for this. Because at the weekend, I knew that Tierney and Sriracha were both like going to play, but I didn't really know who was going to play where or anything like that. So I put them both in a good team, and although both of them both played, you're then at the mercy of really rapid. Like, again, you look at the scores that I've put around both players, 3 greens and an orange for both of them, so they've been well supported, and it depends how you want to think of that, I guess. But if you're playing for like a club strategy, you're going to have secondary positions covered anyway. And if you do have with multi-entry, and I'm thinking more in a classic context for this, but if I know that Tierney Classic is dodgy, I might just go and play somebody else. And if I have Sorare, I might even just play him. It's kind of the point of that. So I think from a classic perspective, because you will have collections and teams and strategies that grandfather themselves in, I think multi-entry and everything that goes around it, like the longer you play the game, the bigger your gallery gets. It's just unavoidable, no matter how you want to dress it up. And even if you're somebody like me that's really proactive in giving the gallery the haircut, cashing some profit in, recycling strategies, or, buying low, selling high to buy low somewhere else, whatever it may be, I've still got more cards now than ever before for a number of different reasons. I disagree. I did spend a lot of time thinking about it. I really do disagree, because, again, I said this on the Celtic stream earlier today on Axon, but if you look at Tierney's Sociedad record especially, it was the international windows that really did feel like the straw that broke the camel's back on a few occasions with him. And I thought his withdrawal was just really managing the player from club and country perspective, if you want him in future windows, etc., because of the pile-up we'd had in August, the trips to Kazakhstan on top of that, etc. So I don't think it was, especially when he was pictured in training beforehand, and he did come off, he played more than 30 minutes in the game. I think it was just a easy game to start Sorare, number one, and Tierney wasn't probably 100%, but I don't think it was more in favour of Sorare necessarily. Alternatively, things could be done to, maybe a little bit. I'm less against that, but I think so that's just the first thing I wanted to kind of say there off the back of Gaza's thing there. Gaza's after no sub, I think, maybe in general, but I think overall, like for SO7, like if I get a DNP, I should be pretty surprised, I think, and if you do get one, it's just I live by the sword, die by the sword thing, like you can see here with the goalkeeper. There's just some things like that. That is part of the game, does give you opportunity. There's no getting away from that. And, if it does kill you, it kills you. But the thing with these cards is they're bought and paid for. They are bought and paid for. They're already grandfathered into the club, grandfathered into the strategy. And that's what I think any drastic structural changes are less required, really, to be honest with you. I think the system at the moment is really good for that. I'm getting less DNPs in SO7 than I did in SO5, which is quite a weird thing. But I think it's just maybe the makeup of it being a champion region. All-Star is probably the same, but again, it's maybe a little bit down to card count, which, again, for a classic position, I think everyone can accept that having a strong card count, having a lot of cards in your gallery is not unreasonable or unimaginable, the longer you play the game, especially. It's more that in-season kind of thing, because again, I've been done out with streaks on DNPs more than most, or just as much as anyone else. This weekend, it's not really been the DNPs that's really killed me in that regard, except for maybe the Engels card here. But the number one negative that comes alongside the subs, and I'll try and keep up with the chat, guys, but it's absolutely on fire. Thanks to everyone that is joining us live for this today, by the way. If you missed the intro, I'm looking to kind of aggregate a lot of the thoughts, feelings, and takeaways that we're getting in the chat from you guys, as well as anything we examine on screen, into a bit more of a concise pros and cons video for all this stuff. But I just wanted to put some of my 2 cents out there. We've got about 65, 70 of you live on the YouTube, a bunch of you on Twitch as well, which is lovely. If we could smash the like button, and if you are on Twitter as well, guys, I did put a wee tweet out for this. If we could smash like and retweet on this, it goes a long, long way. And by the way, this is probably a really good place to leave some of your receipts from the live chat. Anything that you thought about as we get through it, anything you're thinking about coming into it, anything you want examined later on, posting a wee reply here is a great place for me to pick up on it later for when I need to, and it makes it easier for me to showcase it, like this comment came from Gaza, or whatever. So get involved in the live chat, and we'll discuss as much as we can here, but also anything you want to just kind of have put out there into the chat, that's a great place to smash it. So if you can on Twitter, like, retweet, leave a comment, that would be great. And Johnny Kenny DNP'd for the little limited one here, right? Now, in the content, wait, let me stop myself, right? The assumption that streaks have to increase if a sub option gets implemented just isn't true. In terms of the target, I agree with that, because I think the 400, the 420, I think people have still got the promotional stuff in their head in terms of how much money gets paid out and the actual score market as well, Harry. So I'm with you there. I do think that it's because the streaks are where they're at. I think for in-season, there's a strong conversation to be had for it. I agree. To favour those who want subs, you can do the if DNP, no relegation. If you take the DNP rather than doing the sub, I don't think you need to have a trade-off with it, personally. Yeah, I guess like it is sore when you've got your good game, your good team, and your highest division is 2 rather than 1 because something screwed you over. And again, it's all very in season, isn't it? So I can get behind it on in season much more than anything. And I agree with FF Thinkers. Let's see what Sean's saying. I think you could afford solid enough scorers for £1 to £2 in the majority of leagues. It won't score hundreds, but if they get a 40 or 50, that helps. That's a good point. Now, that's what I was gonna bring on to is the main chat around it, right? And I think this is a good part of the conversation to bring this into, right? But I don't think the term whale is appropriate in this discussion at all. When it comes to this benefits Wales or the Wales are going to win from this, it's not. That's just not the. Because what's happened, and this part of the reason I really want to talk about it, right, is because it feels like a lot of the conversation becomes really reductive, and because Wales can do it, that's just the be all and end all, and because that's the chat diminishing that from the other side, it's became like mad politic kind of stuff, isn't it? The way some of the chats went in that way, just thinking about it out loud with you, but it's quite reductive. Okay, so the best thing I think we can all do for the discussion to be like balanced and we're all just getting our point across as well as possible is subs does require more cards, subs does require more money, right? And I guess just saying Wales is like an easy like overview way of just saying people that have lots of cards that have lots of money, right? But it's just you will need more. Your team is now more expensive. If you want to have that insurance policy on it, you will need to buy extra cards. And that was part of the reason I thought the Road to Glory would be a good kind of demo here. Right now, this is the Road to Glory team that I've got. We've got 10 cards. You can see who we've all got. If I open up another tab real quickly, I'll show you the gallery I've got. Now, the gallery I've got for Road to Glory has been going since game week 1. I think we're coming out of game week 9 or something. Yeah. So we're going into game week 11 now. So we can half that number because it's only odd numbers for the Premier League. So we're at game week 4, essentially, aren't we? And we'll be coming into game week 5 next weekend. So we're a month into the season in terms of building the team, buying some guys on opportunity or whatever. So we've got 10 guys here, as you can see. 4 mids, 2 strikers, 2 defenders, all the rest of it. The gallery at the moment, so I think this is like a decent, and you guys can see how much we've spent on it. We've covered it quite thoroughly in the content, but we want to change that to Prem. I had, forget the goalkeeper, although the goalkeeper could have been interesting. Angus Gunn's a backup goalkeeper, so he maybe does play a bit of a part in here. But I had an extra 2 defenders this week, which were Zinchenko, who didn't play, but I had Jake O'Brien, who I could have in theory listed as a defensive sub. Which maybe, again, is another part of the conversation is what position are you picking, what positions are you allowed to pick, etc. I only had 1 midfielder, which would have been Habib Diarra, who did a 28, which isn't too much better than a DNP, is it? And up front, I had 2 DNPs. So I only actually had 2 subs that I could have selected, Jake O'Brien and Diarra, Habib Diarra. So Jake O'Brien would have been the one to play there. Now, am I going to go into a game week in that Road to Glory setting, chasing a streak or whatever, and use Jake O'Brien as a sub? The answer is no. The sub is actually probably going to be Oscar Bob or Chris Wood, isn't it? Because you're not going to use the 11th player in your selection as your first team sub. You're actually going to use your 3rd choice mid, your 2nd choice striker, your 2nd choice defender, depending on what restrictions or what availability you've got there. So I get Sean's point that if you were to buy subs, if you were to ID like, oh, Jake O'Brien, who could be like a good wee sub that could get me like 50 points for a quid or 2, that's open to everyone. And that could be a budget play. It's trying to watch out for, the guys that, like Mukiele. Imagine you had Mukiele as a sub. He was very cheap coming into the game week. Like I think we picked him up for 3 quid or something like that. So you could be quite tactical, quite deliberate with how you go about it. But there is no getting away from the fact that subs requires more cards, requires more money spent, it then adds time to your gallery development, because I'm at 2 teams now. And if I'm taking one of those players out, really take your pick. We can do it retroactively and say it would be Ronaldo because he was the highest scorer. Or you could look at it as prospect-wise coming into the game week, would have probably went with Oscar Bob, right? This team just then is a lot different. That team then needs further enhancement. And yeah, that's just a different kind of element that gets added into this. The unknown DNP suck. But I have had one all season that has been 90% to start, and I've had over 20 in season lineups. And yeah, there is maybe a little bit of the probability element that comes into this as well. Like, you feel them really hard when they happen, but how often do they actually happen? Stephen Vinnett, good to see you. I personally think the goalkeeper DNP is the biggest travesty. Yeah, that's very fair, isn't it? Very, very fair. There is no argument to be made about strategy and tactics. Goalkeeper position, yeah, that's a great thing I would like to add in. Goalkeeper on top of the in-season, like in terms of something, I think that is like so solid, it's hard to get away from. Like, any innovation really, if at the very minimum, should be goalkeeper focused or centric, because the goalkeeper is the toughest one. You can buy a backup. You can know who the backup is. It increases the market for the backup also, and you then maybe need to be on your phone less as well. Like if I've got Angus Gunn, so if I had Matt Sells or whatever, I can then just select both of them and then forget about it. And then if the game happens and I'm at work or you're doing something and you miss the news, you're saved from it. I really like that, because yeah, the goalkeeper is the card you hate spending money on the most. And when that's the thing that screws you, because some goalkeepers, guys, how hard is it to get a nailed keeper that's good? Not many, is there? So many headaches and question marks. Even Donnarumma at City, Trafford's going to get a minute or two here or there. Never mind Alisson and Marmardashvili. We've seen Sam Lamins, and obviously he's went by underplayed at the weekend. I think that's not going to be much of a problem much longer, but just use some examples that are out there. So I love that from Stephen. It's definitely Sorare DNA. Yeah, I think, and that's where like the classic, like I say, guys, classic all-star has always been, in my interpretation of the game, going back 5 years of content, is hardcore mode. It's gloves off. It's the biggest and best scores win, end of, so I think hardcore mode all-star is something I'm kind of just accepting in a good way. Like that's the way it kind of should be. Well, there should be a division that's anything goes, do what you want. And yeah, I'm 50-50 with them, says Rob. Always been against them, but I'm not so sure with being in-season heavy now. Yeah, it ruins several weeks of utility, and that's probably bringing into equation the relegation element, isn't it? But there's no getting away from the fact that, the chat is really flying away, guys. I don't think 5 subs for 5 spaces is the correct answer. Yeah. 1 keeper and 1 outfield, that could be good. But exploitation is the thing that we need to avoid, isn't it? That's the number one thing nobody wants, because that's when the whale word is in the chat, that is a lot of the negative assumption or connotation, is it can be gamed as well as maximized, so not only do bigger, stronger strategies, galleries, whatever, not only did they get saved more, but they might even actually be able to exploit it on some occasions if they're really cute with how they use the mechanic, because they've got so many good cards to use as options. Because like I mentioned to you before, I'm building my teams, if I need to keep this Oscar Bob on ice to go in Team 1's sub bench, that has a real knock-on effect to my second team. And as you can see with the multi-entry with the Celtic lineups, the one that hit my streak was the third team that I picked. It was the reserves that hit the streak for me. So you want your strategy fleshed out. You want to have strong multi-entry options. And introducing the sub then does change things. Part of the chat I seen going on at the weekend was like Sorare waiting for the new season before implementing something, like not doing a mid-season change. And I just think that is unavoidable, sadly. Although everyone does want this to happen yesterday, like that's the rules. Sorare have said that's the rules, and for better or worse, that's the way it works, and that's the way rules are. Whether they work for you or against you, you need to play with them, So if they do have a sub solution that we all love, and we maybe get a test of it in Champions League game weeks, etc., like you can't bring it in mid-season, you just can't. For me, you just need to stick to the rules, don't you? So yeah, I think a sub is a nice little foundational piece that gets added into this. And if we're doing a sub goalkeeper and outfielder, then we're quietly talking about this being SO7, aren't we? Obviously, the keeper's not quite the second player, is he? But in terms of card count, is that an easier transition into classic game mode thereafter? Maybe that's a quiet kind of sub benefit. I don't know. Yeah, a lot of you guys seem to be with me on the in-season onus on this solution. And yeah, Liam, I seen yours was so painful. It was so painful. Enzo Lafi, DNP, Jesus wept, by the way. Yeah, I'm with you there, D, as well. Because, yeah, like the Sorachis even of this world. Because if you know, like this Celtic have got this with a number of positions, a lot of big clubs have it where if it's not Tierney, it's Sorachi. You know, so if that's the only question mark, like me playing Sorachi and Tierney in the one lineup is cool. But then there does need to be clarity. Because, like, am I getting, like, obviously Sorachi started, which, you know, was fine then, right? We get Sorachi's points. Or do we? Because if Tierney was who I picked and he comes off the bench, you know, so, and Sorachi started, he got an assist. So there's still a little bit of mud with that, isn't there? Like, how do you actually make sure it's not riggable? Yeah, exactly. The whale word just reduces the chat to nonsense, I think, and just nobody can really. It's just not a good way. Like what that means, I think we can all agree on is it requires another card, you know. And I think to write it off as like, and I'm not saying anything against Sean. Sean's added a great point, and I'm agreeing with him in terms of a budget context. But if you think about your primary lineup and the strength that we all aspire to having for our number one team, you're not having a budget sub. You're having a sub that is going to be a superhero for you. Like if somebody lets you down, he's going to be the guy that saves the day, and that needs to be a good player. And that just has the ripple effect, I think we can all agree on. Sam, good to see you, my man. Well, I agree with the principle. I think you'll need to set one for each position. Yeah, because the DNP defender getting you a midfielder into effect, you know, etc., and the potential for that to be gamed is a tight one, isn't it? And I think we're getting to the nuts and the bolts of some of the things that make this a really tough nut to crack, because then you're like, it's hard to disagree with what Sam's here is saying, isn't it? So if we're then looking at having like a sub lineup, and I mean that in like the terms of like sub context, subplot, you know, but also sub bench, I guess, is a double entendre. That have their lineup so streamlined. Yeah, and that's but what it is, Jamie, it's like the knock-on effect. So if we kind of walk it on with the Premier League example I had, just because I've got a finite amount of cards, the only 2 extra cards I've got is Jake O'Brien and Diarra. So like I mentioned, the problem is taking Bob out of this team, which fair enough, this team didn't do anything right, but if one of these guys get a decisive, this team is getting some XP, maybe promoted if we're super lucky. I'm not too sure what promotion is in D2 for this one. So it's not that far away from being kind of half useful. And if I take out potentially the best player on paper out of that team to make him a sub here, and we're bringing in O'Brien or Diarra, it does diminish the second team. And then if Bob does pop off and doesn't get into the SO5 lineup, because all 5 of these guys have played, then I think the complaints will be if your sub doesn't play, he drops down a lineup. You know, I think that could even be the can of worms that could be opened up, because you'll be raging having a sub on 100 and he's not impacting anything. It will then be, maybe this is the solution. You pick 5 outfielders, then now it's 4, and you get your best 5 scores out the 4. No, Tim, it's just been a lot of chat. Like the Penfez, Harry, 1 or 2 others have been really like banging the drum on this for a while. It's been a really interesting chat and conversation, and I just thought today's a good time and day for me to kind of. So I've not really spoke on it, to be honest with you, to this point. Some equity issues have no place in a gaming forum. Improve the game in a way, and managers are more encouraged. Yeah, exactly. Oh, Mikey Basson with the TLDR, the timeline download. I absolutely love it, guys. We've got about 80, 90 of you here on chat. Could we smash the like button if you are watching us live on YouTube? And if you are on Twitter, This is the post I put out for the show today. If you could hit a wee like and a retweet on this and leave a comment of any of your big takeaways that I don't get to in the live chat, because I want to return to this in a video and kind of be a bit more concise with everything that everyone's bringing up and really put it out there, and we can have a bit more of a well-presented pros and cons situation for it all. It just shows that there is no easy solution to this problem or a solution that will suit everyone, and the latter is what Sorare wants. Yeah, a solution that will suit everyone is definitely what everyone's after. Yeah, exactly. And I think it's the player versus the game part, isn't it? Where if we've only got streaks with these cards, we've only got in-season utility with these cards for in-season for the most part, obviously minus the classic thing, blah, blah, blah. Then, yeah, being undone by DNPs feels a bit too harsh. And I would bring it back to Harry's point, because of where the scores are required, particularly for the first two streaks, when there's not a promotion on or a throwback frenzy or any of these things, it feels extra rough because you might have hit the streak, especially when you're on number 4, like you were, Liam, and you've hit such a big score and a big time in the season is the extra sore part about it all, isn't it? So, yeah, good point. You could be worse off using Bob or Wood as your first team sub. You had no DNP, so your game week, yeah, your second team becomes worse and your first team becomes no better. Yeah, that's a great way of summarising it, Charlie. Thanks. Great point. Okay, so you think it's an optional insurance policy? I don't mind that being implemented overnight as a goalkeeper perspective. But I think for the outfielders, it's, again, if it's not a prerequisite that you're submitting a sub, then it is. I think it just, because again, is that a tactical decision? Maybe it is, because if we think about Rob's point here, that it is optional rather than mandatory, right? I could buy Tierney and Sorare and know they are covered, right? Now, if we compare the price of, is that even relevant? I don't know, but as a hypothetical, Alistair Johnson has nailed it right back. Alistair Johnson, he's injured right now, right? But he is typically more expensive than Kieran Tierney. And I dare say he's probably more expensive than Tierney and Sorare combined. So if I can't afford Alistair Johnson, maybe I buy Tierney and Sorare, and that's my strategy, and I will use my sub column. So that's an interest, and again, that maybe helps the budget player out a little bit, because you're getting, and again, there's maybe more high-profile versions of this, like Ferran Torres and Lewandowski. You know, like maybe you can't afford Vinny. I know both those guys are 60 merchants anyway at the moment, but you get the point. That's interesting, Rob. I really like that thought. What if you are given 7 keys every 7 days? Ooh. Do you know, that's really fun. Like, you've got 7 keys to unlock the lineup and just change it quickly and bring a sub in, essentially. Like, take a guy out who you know is going to DNP and bring someone else in. Do you know, I don't mind that as a concept in general. I think that really helps fix the problem. Probably not. Because, again, the problem will become like, you've ran out, or you needed it this week, but you didn't have it this week, or yeah, I don't think you want to commodify it, you know, because again, like they might do keys on the wheel. I don't think you want to walk into that world. The thing that's so annoying is, in my opinion, Sorare are obviously going to change something, even if the majority. But so, like, I'm undecided. Where is the majority on this conversation? Because I agree with you. Like, see with me, for product feedback, I don't try and force anything. Like, if I don't really have a feeling or an opinion on something, you just will not hear from me from it. And that's not like a deliberate silence. If I've got nothing to say on it, I'm probably not going to bring it up in conversation or look to do it as a topic in a video or anything. But I think we're at the point now where, like you say, the conversation is so out there because it's, you know, there is like a lot of drive towards it on social media. And I think one of the, oh, sorry, I thought I had to change screen, but I already had it, was when Nico did this little poll, because you know then they're looking at it. I've not voted on it yet, as you can tell, because I don't know what I want to vote on this. But I want to see the percentages, which is the main reason for voting on this. It's had 5,000 votes. I don't know where the majority is. I am going to vote out of these two options. It's interesting why these are the two options and not rolling locks or late swaps. Because I do think, as much as I know Gaza's here and he hates it, right? But I know as much as like the little pencils that we've had on MLS and be able to change your lineups does feel a little bit full time. I think for your primary strategy, it's all right. Because if you get the team sheet out for Celtic and see Sorare starts over Tierney, jumping onto your phone and making a quick swap for a second, the team sheets come out an hour before kickoff. I don't think over a weekend it's unimaginable, you know, that you could take care of that if you knew that was kind of like on the cards for your just gameplay. But I do get the fact that it could be intrusive and a bit much. But if there is to be like no pre-game week sub, I like that idea, but more than just no subs, which is the alternative on the poll. Which is why I'm conflicted by what to vote for on this. So I'm going to click the positive one because I do think for no subs is the dominant one. Interesting. Now we've got about 90 of these here. Let's do a poll here, and we'll just copy Nico's, right? Subs preset before deadline. No subs, right? We'll just copy Nico's here, right? All right, I'm doing my best to catch up with the chat. Swallow, yeah, goalkeepers for Hearts for sure. The issue is that without positions, it could be gamed. Yeah, so maybe like only a defender sub can play for a defender, which is why the Sorare Tierney thing works, I think, isn't it? Because you're not going to play like Sorare as a sub, and then if McGregor doesn't play, you just have 3 defenders all of a sudden. If McGregor DNPs, you're still screwed. I think could be the mechanic. What about a flexible lineup until kickoff? Yeah, like I don't mind that, Mitchell, which is why I think out of this frame that Nico's got, I think that's a missing option. Yeah, I think me and Harry are on the same page. Sebastian, I'll put your point on screen, mate. Thanks for making it. Great comment. Rob P. Sorry, I'm just trying to catch up. Yeah, and that's a great thing to further highlight. Wizard of Oz is really the nut of the conversation is the ones that are not meant to be DNPs. Like if you know that you're playing Ferran Torres and Lewandowski or Sorare and Tierney or whatever it is, Johnny Kenny, whatever. Like if you get some DNPs, you know you're dancing with the devil on some of them, don't you? But like I had, and I wouldn't have been able to save this in a roll and lock situation, right? But I had Sean Johnson DNP this game week, and I was like, what? And then I remembered, oh, did he not have a concussion thing? But I think we thought he was past it, didn't we? But it's those ones where it's like, oh, I could just swap that, and that's like somebody who was projected to play and didn't. And those are the ones where and this team did all right, didn't it? It's low division, so DNP goalkeeper. Oh, guys, we could have really smashed in that Road to Glory team. The giveaway team for the members, that one is, sorry. Memphis Depay, DNP. Again, like the ones like, no, I suppose Memphis, I suspected, that's why I didn't play him in a main team after the international window, he would be dodgy. So I think there is some of them that, yeah, you can dance with the devil on, but there is some of them that there's no getting away from it, that you want to be able to fix them. Known big hitters, expensive cards, primary strategies. A lot of talk about sentiment, but going off the poll, sentiment would go down if they introduced anything. Guaranteed mid-season change, I don't think is a good thing. I don't think so, because you live by the sword, you die by the sword. Those are the rules, you know? Like, those are the rules. They're only going to change the game whenever they said they're going to change it, for better or for worse. So, yeah, I don't want anything. I don't want the handbrake getting pulled on something. although I agree in season is the place the solution should come, I can't really advocate for it to come in tomorrow into in season too hard, because it's kind of like, okay, but you didn't. It does change the rules of engagement. I do think multi-entry is a big detractor from DNP impact. I do, but I think, like the previous point said, it's those ones where, like, your main team, did I have a big one that really went against me? I don't think so. I wouldn't have. This team was throwaway anyway, wasn't it? But no, not really. Not this week, but I've had them before. I'll go back to game week 7, maybe. I don't know, but yeah. Can't use one outfielder player as you can use a defender to know that they will smash AA. I think if you are only getting one outfielder rapid, can we maybe agree that they can only sub in for their own position? Yeah. Indeed they did. Great. And tell David Taylor, love the fact that you've tracked that. Comments on screen for anyone who wants to read it. Great contribution to the conversation, David. Just my impression here, but Sorare are wanting to implement a sub either due to pressure from big accounts or to sell more cards. He's done 2 polls. Interesting, has he? Maybe you need to go back further for the other one, so I won't go for infinity. Yeah. The Penfez is very passionate about it, and I do agree with the sentiment that, particularly for in-season, it is hyper disengaging, you know, when you've got like a real kick in the nuts DNP. So I think, like, there's a few things that I think we've all kind of struck on that I think in-season, I think the goalkeeper insurance policy with the backup, I don't mind that coming in like tomorrow. I think that's fine, really, isn't it? I don't think anyone would argue with that. Yeah, but in season, and it's like blatant. We want to correct blatant D. I think we want a manual element of this, don't we? Because just picking one position and it's a defender, but you're forward DNPs and you get triple defense out of it, that's not going to work. Or even the premise of the defender can only sub on for the defender. If the forward comes off, there'll just be people like, the sub function doesn't even work because my forward subbed and I couldn't do anything about it. So I think we want to have some sort of manual input. I've added that to my notes. But yeah, there's Graham's comment as well. It does feel kind of PR pushy, I think, doesn't it? But I would say, like, because the Penfez is such a big account and gets like interaction because it's a topic, it's a conversation thing. It's then dead easy to, you know, just have the conversation then, and then other people want to. So I think it's a little bit of a domino effect. Like, if somebody's talking about it, like, it's a trickle down effect. Other people talk about it. Other people talk about it. Here we are right now talking about it. You know, so I get that, but it is kind of just a snowbally thing. Like, if it wasn't interesting, nobody would talk about it. You know, so I get that, but also people want to talk on social media, don't they? They have kind of said that they're trialing stuff and whatever. So strong prediction probably comes true. And yeah, I feel that way ultimately as well. But I don't mind the goalkeeper insurance policy, to be honest with you. Because again, if we go back to those kind of things that I would think we can say we could plant in the ground as things that we're all on the same page with, is that we want to avoid those blatantly obvious DNPs or those kicking the balls ones that ruin a streak or something. And the goalkeeper backup situation, it's a dead easy, dead formulaic one to cover. Now, you can get the odd situation where goalkeeper number 3 is the guy that comes off the bench. Really, at that point, like, you're fucked, right? So whatever. There's not really much you can do, I think, is there? beyond that. So yeah. The chat has been running away, guys. I'm doing my bit. I'm skipping a bunch of comments to try and catch up with the chat a bit more. The contender clown, good to see you. New account, new name and face. If the player that DNP has played 3 or 4 of the last, then a sub, no matter the position, should come in. If you use a 0% defender and the sub is a forward. Interesting. So use the Sorare inside mechanics to work as parameters around it. Oh, interesting. Feels quite busy. I think the solution needs to be simple. But I like that. I think that's quite clever. And I think in a really clever, mature setting, that could fix that problem if the only way to fix it was a solution mechanically. So I like how what you've done there. Using L5 as some sort of gauge on the importance of the sub. Because again, if you've got a guy that's played 3 out of 4, 4 out of 5, it's probably an important player for you. Or the team that they come from or whatever. So yeah, I like that as a gauge on criteria. There's been some great comments here. I've probably skipped a bunch of them, by the way. I forgot we did a poll, didn't we? So our poll is, wow, bang on 50-50 as I look at it. We have an even number of votes, which makes that possible, but split 50-50. That is incredible, guys. We've got 100 of you live on YouTube. I don't know, about a couple of dozen on Twitch as well, which is lovely to see. So thanks to everyone that's tuning in today to join the conversation. If you are just catching now, please do hit the like button on YouTube. It goes a long way to helping us find more Sorare scouts and managers that want to get involved in the conversation. And if you are on Twitter or X or whatever you want to think of it as, please do, if you see it, smash the like button and hit a wee retweet on this. And any comments that I may be missing in the live chat or you want featured on any future videos or content on the subject, reply to this tweet with those thoughts and feelings. I think it really, like, eradicating known DNPs helps everyone, right? But what that conversation is really about is how much does it help somebody? Because if you've got the ability to have like another team 1 level guy on the bench and team 2, 3, 4 are no worse off for you, it's helping you more than it's helping me, the budget player who has Lewis O'Brien or Jake O'Brien, whatever his name is, on the bench. And that's where the disparity comes, because some people are able to be saved better by it. I suppose the same is true in almost every solution, isn't it? Even with the manual element or pre-allocated subs or whatever. But I think you want to limit the extent that is the case, because you want it to be as easy as possible to build your team. Ooh, a no sub bonus. That's fun. And again, that goes back to Rob's point earlier of it being optional. And then the kind of expansion we had onto that was like the Tierney Sorare thing, how it might even be a strategy. You buy 2 guys because they're cheaper, because they're always unknown. The price will change, obviously, in that climate, but you could also get a boost for also not choosing it. Really great suggestion there, the contender clown. Exactly. But where the disparity, or wherever the word is, comes from is the quality of subs able to use. Because your best team is your best team, right? But what's your best sub? My best sub is actually Ronaldo, who is the best defender in this team, the second best defender overall. I've kind of done my job right there, haven't I? And him getting taken to be sub over here, and then O'Brien coming into here diminishes this team by 5 points. O'Brien did 53, didn't he? And then I have a 58-point player on ice. Now, some people, this is a good thing. This is one of the Penfez's positives, isn't it? Is it takes Vinny Juniors out the game. It takes those guys out the equation. If you want to do the Sorare Tierney strategy with Vinny and Rodrigo and that sort of thing. So it will take some higher powered players out of secondary lineups and tertiary lineups. So I think that is part of where the chat is. Where's the exit? I think it changes your best team, doesn't it? But it's the knock-on effect to the quality of sub you have at your disposal, and then how good team 2, 3, 4 are as a result. Because again, if you stretch this out over 4 teams, the pull-up effect is quite strong. Because if I'm using Sorare and Tierney in this team, then I'm going down for a defender, and I'm using Stephen Welsh, and then he comes in here as a 45-point defender, and then I've got both of these guys contributing to one team, and maybe, depending on how the mechanic works, if I've selected Tierney as a starter and I've had Sorare on the bench, I might not even get to use Sorare's score. I think for Division 1, and I think that's an important element to add into the conversation here, I think that will be the case. For Division 2 and 3, I would disagree, because I do think it actually makes Division 2 and 3, I say it'll make Division 1 a lot harder, but those teams will rise to the top. Like you're talking about that power gap, it will be felt in the divisions, but Division 2 and 3 will be easier in that regard, because like my Tierney Sorare example in Division 2 is going to work out a lot better than it is in Division 1, because the Division 1 guys will have 2 entries up in Division 1, so they're unlocking in their extra Vinnies, to use it in the Penfez example again, and then that means their Division 2, 3 teams or whatever won't have that same strength from the starting lineup, because they're now on the bench in a higher division. Whereas you're still in Division 2 with your team and you've got less Vinnies to fight against. So I agree, but I think the only place you feel that in is the divisions. Yeah. And I say, Harry, I like that a lot. I like what we had in midweeks. And again, like I started the show off with, I think they can make it a very competition specific solution. It's hard to do it for in season, mid season though. But I think they could just say it's in season only. They might even start off by saying it's in season league specific only. So the big 4 plus MLS. And then they've got that rolling lock element. I mean, Harry experienced on the deadline show doing that with Champions League, because most competitions have got like maybe not all the games play at once, especially at the weekend, obviously, but they've got like a start time. And by that start time, you'll have all the information you need. You'll know who's in the traveling party. You'll know who's trained, who was mentioned in the press conference, etc. I think for midweeks, it's almost guaranteed that they do it again, like they did last year, or have a variation, an iteration on it, don't they? So I think for midweeks, there will be no DNPs for the most part. Although we do have midweek teams available for drafting, and I think they would have told us by now if they were going to do something, especially if it had been Champions League. Wouldn't they have? But I think they should do that for midweeks again. Yeah. But again, if you started Rice and had Zubimendi on the bench, do you just say you get the highest score out of the two of them? Is that then gameable? Again, I don't mind the use of the in-game mechanics to be some sort of threshold, but I think the problem with that, somebody said it in response to Rico, man. There it's there. Like, these are people that they could do that to their own benefit and maybe have a little cabal on the go that all benefit in kind from it. So yeah, I think it's a nice idea, but I think the current format of it is too gameable. Yeah, it doesn't seem like the actual midweek has anything rolled out for it. I went to double check that there, but especially this midweek with it being Champions League only, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. Yeah, it feels weird. It feels like they've maybe missed that. I think almost every mechanic we spoke about regarding like actual subbing is gameable, isn't it? It's so hard to make it iron cast, which is one of the things I wrote down here that somebody brought up earlier is I think the ability for it to be a man, like you see, shit, Yamal's not playing. Let me go and swap him out. I think that's the nut, the core of what any solution should be should require from you, rather than the extra card being slotted in, as you've been able to catch those kicking the balls ones, you know. Could you even do, off the back of what Rob's saying here, right? I don't know if this is precisely what you mean, but this is the way I'm going to take it on, is like maybe for like challenger rare. If I can find the bloody thing. I maybe have like a little compartment here of subs, and it could just be this limited team, for example. It could just be like a little team, and it's a sub team, and it's then if in any of the 4 main entries I have a goalkeeper DNP, well, this guy comes in. If I have a midfielder DNP, this guy comes in. A forward, obviously, we just have 1 per position. And then they just play the region for you as your bench rather than being tied to a team. That's an interesting development, I think, wouldn't it? Per region, a bench per region, a regional bench. Ah, okay. I'll maybe try and see if I can check that. I checked in the responses to it, but it's not in the responses, certainly. If I find it, Graham, I'll put it on. Oh, James has said the same thing I said, but before I said it. Yeah, great idea. How would Sorare monitor that you are using backup goalkeeper? Just got to be from the same match, don't they? Not the same collection. I think I like that as a general criteria. Depend like again, regions maybe a nice way of putting it, isn't it? I think that's a nice criteria for like late lock swaps to do the Sriracha Tierney move. If I see that Sriracha's starting over Tierney, I like that. But I do think for the goalkeeper, it needs to be a match. Like you can see on the game week center, they play for the same team in the same match as a goalkeeper. You know, I think that's the criteria you would need. They need to be directly, unequivocally linked to the same team as the primary goalkeeper. Yeah, fair, but I do think that is like again. I think the other than the regional bench, I think every other kind of method we've heard that talks about subbing, we all kind of agree that there's a gameable element of it, unless they do some super complicated. Can he do it in this situation? Only works in this, you know, thing. It needs to be a really simple rule, you know. So I get that, but I think the manual, again, the number one thing we all hate is the goalkeeper DNP, the Lamine Yamal DNP, that is the big expensive card and the primary strategy, the main thing that's moving for you, that means so much to you this weekend. Because again, when Engels DNPs like you see on screen here, I don't care. Like I do not care. Even though Telio scored him as a captain, I do not care, you know, because it's like, hey, it was the 4th team that about kind of expected he was going to score rubbish. The fact that he DNP'd is like whatever, you know. Yeah, I get that. Well, excuse me, sorry. Sorry, I did say that there would be consequences when they said that they had a sub solution in place already. Obviously, they didn't, or they don't. So I think that something like that could happen. Maybe an XP handicap or a raw score handicap. Ooh, just the criteria of owning the card. Yeah, I quite like that. But it's a messy one. So if there's 2 defender subs in the game, You've got the whole collection. Sell more cards, Gaza. Lifts the price of them as well. I would say, as a counter to that, like why they would want to. And number one, like make money and all that. People need to really enjoy the game. You know, the customer does come for customer satisfaction, happiness here. And I think for in season, you think about your own outlay and everyone's outlay. You know, you don't want to be pissed off with that as much as possible. So I think that's the why Sorare would do it, is to maintain customer harmony or whatever. Yeah, I like that sentiment as well. Try and make that as much the thing as possible. Totally. I agree with that. Extra player. Yeah, that's an interesting detail also. I think you just default to the position of the card in that regard. Or maybe the extra can't be subbed. I don't know. Bit of support from that from Boyson. Torador, good to see you. And yeah, the chat is running away, guys. There's a bunch of likes as well. So thanks to everyone that's tuning in. Great to see you all here live and loud with us as we go through the sub DNP debacle debate conversation that is constantly running on. Uncaptain that Rafinha, please. Did you clock that, Charlie? I thought if Barca score, Rafi's involved. That's kind of all I thought. Newcastle, really good clean sheet record. I think they'll be really strong defensively. But Rafi's on sets. And if they score, he's got a good chance of being involved, doesn't he? So that's when I landed on it. Yeah. I think for midweek, man, I think what we had last year is... It's weird that we've not got that this midweek, I think, isn't it? Sorry, I didn't mean to highlight that. Subs to start at 25. Yeah, it's kind of similar to what someone else said, a -10 handicap. But yeah, I could get behind that as well, Tim. Is against a total DNP. Yeah, so in the case of Rice and Zubimendi or Sriracha and Tierney, you're getting the guy that starts and kicks ass. Oh, no, you're not. You're going to get Tierney and Rice. That will screw you over. Because they did start. You did select them as your main defender or midfielder. So I think in theory, I'm with you. But in practice, I think that will actually be bad. Depending on the mechanic. They do. But I just think you want to watch out for negative experiences with this. Because imagine I've got Sriracha as a sub and I play Tierney. Like, I'm going to be raging that I've not got that 77 defender anywhere helping anything. So the fact that bench players can still score is fine, but if the bench guy actually started, does he supersede the starter you made? Or do you think, screw it, you should be screwed by Tierney, Quinny, in this situation? Zelor, good to see you. You won the Shiny League? No way. Well done to you. Well done to you. Where is rewards? Well done to you. Super Shiny Big Four? Or Super Shiny Continental? Which one are you, Zelor? Let's look at the teams regardless. Who done it? The Big Four. Wow. That is a Big Four Shiny team, isn't it? That is a lovely team. Second place. Altamira. Wow. What a second place finish that is for $2,000. Well done to him. And then number 3. Nice. Nice team. Very punchy, isn't it? Let's see the Continental. Oh. Captain Wanizek. 39-point captain. Goalkeeper. Haspalat 100. You love to see it. Haspalat 100 on 2 of them. Bit more of a Westerlo stack here. Wow. And then in 3rd, Fire in the Eredivisie. Rune. Is Rune in here? Rune's 4th. But I had Spencer of Falkirk. 100-point captain. Well done to you, mate. What about a sub-lower L15 thing? Yeah. That's a good, like an underdog whale. An underdog sub, sorry. I would imagine it's probably going to be after the game week flips. Yeah. But sometimes they might leave it. Maybe see if they're going to try it for next midweek is going to be only Europa League and Europa Conference League. So maybe we'll get a late lock, rolling lock thing next midweek. So, don't know. I would not play your in-season cards in Classic, but Classic is a great way of getting more essence. Like this game week, like I've done fantastic out of Classic, even without everything really going my way. Like 2-7 essence. I can't see here from the overview where it comes from, but oh, sugar. Just clicked on something I shouldn't here. I'm only thinking about this really, Stephen, in an in-season context. So for under 23, I think your point is very valid. Outside of under 23, though, I think I would probably argue back with you in any other competition, to be honest with you. But I'm only really thinking about this in season, personally. Maybe not Champ. Champ, the 3rd team that we picked up a wee bit of essence, which was fine. And for All-Stars, it was bittersweet because Negren and Balikwisha were both rubbish. But guys, I had Captain Shaq with Wanizek. Celtic, if we got the clean sheet, I'd have won the division, I think. I'm going to do the maths on it. 59 points away from the top 20. Rage. Yeah. Yeah, Torador, I'm the same as you. Like, I'm not really all the way towards one of them, but there's a few things that, like, in-season DNPs are brutal. And there is a few solutions that could work, I think is what we would agree on. Cards in the vault are your subs? That could be an interesting... That could be an interesting element. I like that. Yeah. Especially for in-season. I think for Classic, like you say, yeah. And the thing I said about goalkeepers, D, you would roll that out across all positions. I could get behind that too. Yeah, I agree. It's a hard one to have a consensus on, isn't it? I think there's a few things we've kind of ironed down, but that are like we all basically agree on, if not everyone does agree on. What about SO7 taking the best 5 scores? Yeah, I don't mind that too much. But again, I think that just further enhances the requirement for bigger rosters, for more cards. Yeah, imagine subbing Rafi out yesterday. I thought that when he started rattling. I kind of wrote the team off when I seen he was on the bench. I don't think the team was doing great anyway. Yeah, Gross and Amiri had let me down by that point. But when he came on and smashed a 77, I was like, yeehaw, let's go. So I've still got Butes to run. If you can get a clean sheet, we'll get some nice essence out of that. But yeah, it can bite you on the bum. I think manual input, again, if you've done that, you can own it. But if the sub mechanism goes against you there somehow, you'll be raging. Harry's on fire in the comment section. Love to see it. Cut what? It will. If we have subs. What are we talking? I've kind of lost that chat. Sorry, I wanted to maybe bring it up there, but yes, the big four. Oh, mate, well done to you. So that was your team, the big shiny four. This was a sexy team, wasn't it? It was like Fire, Kane, and Kimmich and stuff. Oh, Pedri and Mbappe. Well done, mate. What a team as well. Glitch ball. This is a big can of worms. Yeah. The punishment thing, I think if it's an optional feature, which somebody's already brought into the conversation, I think if it's optional, there has to be a pro and a con for doing it or not. If you don't use the option, you're better off, or if you use the option, there's a penalty attached to it or associated with it in some way. I don't mind it if it's optional, but if it's mandatory, I don't like it. Yeah, you guys are all chatting with Harry, which is great, but I need to scroll ahead of the chat. I can't keep up with it. I'm sorry. No, I'm not. I played to podium, and if they took the streak, no, sorry, yeah. I think you're chatting about the importance of doing well on the leaderboard versus the streaks, and I think for your budget team when you start out, all you're thinking about is streaks. But when we're talking about the level of cards that you don't want DNP in, like Mbappe's and goalkeepers and stuff like that, those are the weeks where you're hitting big scores and you are thinking about leaderboards. It's like, oh, I would have had that game week, but I didn't. So I think in the main situation where it's like the phrase we've used previously in the show and the thing you have brought up already is that DNP that's like a real kick in the balls, that's one that's a real deflator, really ruins your weekend, is an obvious DNP after deadline, or is a high value player that the team was built around and whatever. But I think everyone gets to that position at some point. So I think it's a case of where you are, because I think when you're starting off on the budget and you're first building the team, it is just get you're baby stepping it. And I think that's part of the thing that's lost on the streaks, is the streaks are building you up to be leaderboard capable. Because if you look at the streak scores, like if you're hitting these, you're on the leaderboard, man. Like you are chasing it. Is there a page I can see them all here? Yeah, so if you're getting to the stage where you're building a team to aim for 440 points, that might have the potential upside of you get the right captain to hit the 500s and stuff. You're going to be flying in the leaderboard in enough game weeks if you've got a team that strength. So I think that's a matter of where you are currently, in terms of the in-season element. Yeah, I think that's the main reason it is something that will be tackled, because it is just very disengaging. If you've had a belter of a strategy, you've really done everything in your power, you've built the team, you've bought the cards, early access, and you've got that early in-season premium or anything to that, tune, and then an unknown or a known DNP Saturday morning before the lunchtime kickoff or whatever, Yeah, you want to have your weekend. You want to enjoy the game. You want to see your team smash it. I've won 570 from streaks. Yeah, I do think I think everyone is going to probably win more from streaks, aren't they, over the season? But I think those big weeks that we're talking about, those big streaks that are getting undone, that's when you are like, I would have podiumed. I would have got top 10. Yeah. When you're pushing, when you've got a big score that's going to the ceiling, Rob, yeah, you've said what I'm thinking. When you're going to the ceiling, that's what you're thinking about then. But for the first part, it is like high floor, isn't it? And the streaks are kind of teaching you, like I said before, to fight on the leaderboards, unavoidable, inadvertently or subconsciously, perhaps. Maybe it is intentionally. If you've not done so already, guys, please do smash the like button. It goes a long way to helping us find some more Sorare scouts and managers to come and help with the show. And oh, my battery's died. Let me just flip the camera around. And if you are on Twitter or X or whatever you want to call it, why has it done that? There we go. Then if you could find the tweet we've got here at Quinny3001 and just drop it a wee like and a retweet. Thanks to everyone that's done that. It goes a long way to supporting the channel and just will maybe help us find some more Sorare scouts and managers to come and join the conversation, come and join the party. And we've had 84 votes, so still an even number. There's only 1%. I keep forgetting my camera we're on now. 1% of a difference. It's right split down the middle. There is no consensus, I don't think. Right, so I'm going to end that, right? Now, I want to poll you guys on some of the stuff that I've brought up, right? So, in season only, everywhere. Other. Right, new poll, guys. Where, if and how and when a DNP solution of any description, just a DNP solution, what do you think? If your chances of getting a score increases, I really disagree because I think the scores are quite high anyway. And I think that's part of the reason there is, because if the streaks were lower, like if the streaks at rare were the same as what they are at limited, for example, I think there's less of an uprising in DNP outcry at the moment. I hit streak 4. Where's that comment? I'll put it on screen. Contender Clown as well. Thanks to see you again in the chat. 40 euro team. Nice. All the rest failed to hit 420. Okay, the team is in Div 3, but only got... on Contender, yeah, it's not. You're right. But again, so if you had subs, that team 3 wouldn't exist, would it? That team 3 is actually the one that would be the most different, you would argue. I don't know if that's part of the conversation you're having, if you're just... That's just an example, so sorry if I'm coming at that from the wrong direction. We've spoken about the fact multi-entry does definitely, like, my third team is the one that hit the streaks this week as well, so I'm living that life as well. I get that. But I think 420 is quite a tough score. I think Contender's a bit different, right? Because the cards are generally cheaper, and some of those leagues do have some classic smashers you can really like get your hands on. Versus Prem, La Liga, Bundesliga, the primary, the main entry, the competitions with the most money, the most entries, the most interest in them, and in season, I think is the ones where like that's actually a lot tougher. I think if you're in D1, I think if you're in D1, you're very mindful of the leaderboard and how scores will go. But I do think because of the in-season format, you're probably quite right, Harry, that nobody is like hyper focused on them or actually targeting it because, you know, like if you've got Mbappe, Vinny, and Valverde, so there's 6 other people. So your possibility of podium is like force majeure down to random acts of other stuff. Who get higher XP? Who was your goalie? Did you have a differential defender? I know the example is not great, but I think you're right there because there's a lot more acceptance that getting to the podium is going to be really hard, isn't it, in terms of a target or a stated objective. But I think when you are buying the Vinnies and the Mbappes, you do factor in that you're going to get top 10, top 20. And I think the podium is like a kind of cross your fingers. It's a bit of a luck element then, isn't it? So I think you're right. Yeah. Rotation risk, I think everyone could probably agree to swallow that, couldn't they? Now, the vote, it's not got as many polls. The poll doesn't have as many votes on it this time, but it's only been going for 4 minutes. Get the poll voted on, guys. Would you want in season only, everywhere or other, in terms of any DNP solution? What's your thoughts and feelings on it? The people advocating for no change, I guess that means don't have those type of cards. The ones that are saying don't change it, don't have. I don't know if you can say that, to be honest with you. Really? There's 400 Mbappes. Now, he's not cheap, obviously. But I don't think, and again, like that's getting too set on people thinking if you're against subs that you're like whale bashing. Because if like Mbappe is your best card, you can't afford to have Mbappe level subs, you might still feel the same way. Maybe as a generalization, it's probably not too far off the mark. But I do think that's a pretty big assumption generalization, I think. The ones saying they are worried people with better cards. I think they're no, but I think it's more the case of people that can have Mbappe as your sub, not the guys that have Mbappe for starting. But again, that brings up Nep's conversation of, but you want that because if you do have one Mbappe and someone else has two, if one of them uses one of them as a sub or whatever, that's less to compete against. But again, I think that's why the term whale is not really. I know you're not used it, but I think that's where the whale context of this comes into it because it's thinking about people in the nth degree, whereas it's yeah, it's kind of neither here nor there. The ones saying don't change it also think Wales have 15 Kimmiches. Yeah, I think that's true when the conversation is all about Wales and non-Wales. You do expect that it's not even 15, right? But if you've got like 4 Kimmiches, you're playing 2 of them in D2 or D1, sorry, you're playing maybe 1 in D2, or I don't know. So yeah, that's not accurate, obviously, because there's nobody, well, I don't want to say there's nobody with 15 Kimmiches, but there's not enough people with 15 Kimmiches where that level of exploitation is a problem. But it's the those people, although they won't have 15 Kimmiches, maybe do they have 3 Mbappes? Do they have 4 Vinnies? Do they have 3 Rafinhas? And then the quality of subs that they have just across the board is infinitely better. think people who are worried about, yeah. I don't know. I think if you are playing streaks, but the idea is you build to 5-10. You know, like once you hit streak 3, you buy Mbappe. You know, with the view if he can get you back to streak 3 and maybe to number 4, so on and so forth. A whale is someone with a lot of money or a lot of cards or both. Nah. Does Pavel even have one Kimmich? Goldfish and dolphins. That's what the rest of us are. More than one DNP is getting vaulted anyway, or one DUP. I find that you're able to manipulate the timeline. What timeline? What are we talking about? I'm confused. Yeah, I don't think Pavel has any Kimmiches. I think you would know. If Pavel has a Kimmich, doesn't he hold on to it for too long because people see it and will get a deal done, you know. If he's probably had a few across his books, hasn't he? But I don't think he's got one in house at the moment. Guys, so I'm going to finish this wee poll that's on here now. 63% of you have went with the in-season only. We had much less votes on that one than the last one, right? I'm going to love yous and leave yous in 10-15 minutes. We'll have one more poll to finish off. And do you want this to be manual or automatic? It feels like to me we want it to be manual because the main thing we want to avoid is the painful Yamal, the goalkeeper, the unexpected guy, the team sheet comes out after the deadline. And that's something that we want to know. All right, well, I'm taking Mbappe out and I'm putting in whoever. Harder to game that then, isn't it? Positionally and whatever as well. So that's the way I feel about manual and automatic, kind of. And yeah, contender clown. That's what do you call it? The Penfez's whole thing. It's a great point, and it has a lot of validity. Sorry, Holland. The poll is just for. Oh, is that maybe why we get less votes? Because people wanted to vote for no. Fair enough. Okay. No subs voters should choose auto. Maybe. Yeah, Liam, that's a good point. When I've been at Celtic Park, it is tough because in and around stadiums, signals can be dodgy. You're busy. Where's the ticket? Where's my food? Where we're running late anyway. The tube was, whatever. So yeah, I do get that. The match going fan, that's tough on them, isn't it? This is a game for football fans after all. I abstain. Fair enough. And like I say, the longer you play Sorare, the more DNPs will get you. They will hurt you. DNP, as I like to call it. So it's one of those ones where, like, I don't think anyone disagrees with the fact that they're rotten and they're painful and they ruin your weekend. But it's the give and the take of it all because we have all equally benefited from them. what competition, what's the level, what's the input required, what's the mechanic that gets activated, how does it get activated? I like a lot of the stuff that we spoke about today. I think the fact that maybe just being able to directly handcuff a goalkeeper, I think should be a good thing and should be promotable, like something that Sorare should do, and it's just good practice. The in-season thing, we've pulled that already. You all seem to, well, not all of these, but the majority voted kind of alongside that. I'm a manual guy now, I think, as well. I think we want to avoid the knowing, the headaches, the kicking the balls stuff. And I think that's you receive news and you fix it, although it's not a perfect solution, as we've heard from some of the other things. And yeah, optional was another thing that came up as something that I quite liked the thought of, where you don't need to do it. You know, there's a benefit to not doing it, or some sort of reduction on using it, the card that uses it. It's just impossible because no one goes to the bottom of the. Stop. Right, it's not even that, right? We know that Kimmich DNP'd. We know that the goalkeeper get injured in the warm up. So you kind of know it's went for you. And if you've won, you'll remember it that week. But will you remember it next month? Maybe. Will you remember it in 6 weeks, 2 months? That will diminish, is kind of my point. So yeah, it's very intangible. And if you're not winning something big, the quicker you'll forget about it. If you won because of it, you'll remember for quite a long time, won't you? But if you finished like 100th and you just got like 20 quid rather than essence or something, you'll forget it in like a month or two, won't you? The vault thing might be an interesting backdoor option. Gil, let's see you, my man. Thanks for joining the chat. I had Jose Zat and Damsgaard in my lineup. Both were out of their squad last minute due to illness. Ouch. So what about Gil here? Would he be able to do 2 subs? Is it limit 1? I think you would be surprised, Rob P. I think let's just say the VIPs. I think the VIPs would buy one more of every player that they see as important to them, or they would buy all the backups or whatever. Yeah, and yeah, I think the sub slot, Sean, that's a great addition. Like, because with the late swaps, see if you get a DNP, they lock on as a 0. You can't get rid of them. I think you should be able to get rid of them until the game week's done, because maybe you're waiting for another team sheet to come out before you put somebody in. If it is a manual effort, you don't need to do it, because that's part of the pain and that's part of the time sensitivity. Is that if you let them trap into the game on the late swap mechanic we've played with already, they lock in as a DNP a 0. You can't change them thereafter, even though the mechanic was available in that game week. So that's a great little addition in there as well, like that. And that is something that has not been brought into the chat that, Josh, I'm really glad you did. I buzz off of Kimmich DNP. I fucking love it. I love it. So I can, yeah, I'm with you. I'm with you. Yeah, Ian, that's a good summary as well. Uh, I don't know. I kind of disagree with that, because it's more that you're avoiding in your max. You didn't get DNP, so it's not that like, oh, my strategy was not to play Kimmich because I thought he would DNP, and all these people did play Kimmich. It's more a case of Kimmich took everyone out this week, and my guy's done it. And one other week it'll be Harry Kane takes you out, and Kimmich saved everyone else or whatever. Yeah, I'm with you there, Mikey. Smallest camera. Well, I've just put it in this little corner. I can put it here. Make it a bit bigger if you want. I was just trying to show more of the screen. Do you think all the sub talk? Yeah, maybe. Right, guys, we'll close this poll off at the moment. 57% said auto, an auto pick selection rather than a manual. Fair enough. I find that interesting. Guys, I've had a great time chatting out with you. I'm going to sit and chill for another couple of minutes. I'll just move the screen, but put this camera on with you guys, and maybe just need to fix that a wee tiny bit. But yeah, final thoughts and feelings. Throw them at me in the chat. And you get the gorilla tape back out here for my old wee Ooga Booga man. And yeah, let me see your final thoughts and feelings, guys. Oh, mate. Where to even start with that? Favourite sweet treat? What we're chatting about just in general, or like after dinner? I would say the easiest at chocolate raisins. Like I am, especially if you're in the UK and you can get them out of Marks and Spencer's. Chocolate raisins. I could chew like a camel on that stuff all day, man. Rolfs would save a DNP. Definitely right, he would. Love the chocolate raisins. Chocolate, especially if you can get them from Marks and Spencer's. I don't think it's explicit. I think it's just Belgian chocolate now, right? But when I was younger, you know, if you're in the UK, you know, Marks and Spencer's is all about the ingredients, isn't it? When I was in high school, Marks and Spencer's chocolate raisins were explicitly Belgian chocolate California raisins. Now I think it's just explicitly Belgian chocolate and any old raisins, but all the same, chocolate raisins. The better, the better. No problem at all. Like I was quite up for. I say Monday at this time. I was quite keen to do Sorare stuff because I want to do Monday night MFL football. My kid has football training imminently, and I've got Celtic stuff always on a Monday morning. So, and this felt like it's kind of been rumbling on. I've not really put anything out there on my own thoughts and feelings, or even had a discussion on it. So I thought that's a good one to go with today. Line. Oh, by the way, they are so underrated. Line bars, like. Line bars are top shelf, I think. But you can't eat them all the time. They are something that you need to... Oh, yeah, I've not had one of these in ages, I think. Knickerbocker Glory. That's all right. Yeah. So I can't remember what it was. The kids got... I think they got a Crash Bandicoot action figure kind of thing. And I took this. I was like, I'll be having that. They also got like 4 Mario Karts. They got Yoshi, Mario, Luigi. This used to be taped on over here and it's fell off. So I've just kind of slid it in. But they got Luigi, Mario, Yoshi, and maybe Bowser or something. And I was like, Yoshi's mine. I'm always Yoshi. And I've got a wee Lego Mandalorian that's always here. Get obsessed with Mando. Picnics are better. They're all right. Whisper Gold. Whisper Gold out the fridge. Gully.world. Good to see you, my man. Picnics are good as well, for sure. I'm getting hungry. I normally have a snack and I go to the kids' football and then I'll listen to content at 6 o'clock or 6:30 onwards. But some people normally start streaming at 6, so I'll try and catch any things that start at 6. But yeah, I've had a great one, guys. So what I'll be looking to do is follow up with this. If you haven't done so already, this is the tweet that went out. If you've got any comments that we've spoke about that you want to make sure that we talk, they get their time in the sun, I'm going to do a video trying to be much more concurrent and succinct on the topic, pros and cons, and things that we're all kind of discussing here. So anything that you put into the chat that was a really good point that I never seen, put it in here. Anything at all, put it in the replies to this tweet. Like and retweet it if you don't mind as well, and I'll include those entries on a video that we'll make as well over the next week or so. I should be back. Fudge is legendary material, to be quite honest with you. But I will be, I'm 99%, I'll be back for MFL Monday night tonight. So hit the notification bell and I'll see you live for tonight, most likely. And tomorrow we'll be live. We'll do a little bit of a deadline drama for Champions League midweek and whatever else we've got running All-Stars. You can see I'm got a provisional team lined up, but I'll scrap it and do it again. We'll look at predicted lineups and stuff tomorrow. A wee bit of deadline drama and yeah, tons more stuff going through the week as per usual, guys. Thanks again, everyone that tuned in. Thanks to everyone that smashed the like button, supported the tweet, got involved in the polls, the live chat. I'm looking at the wrong camera. Really does mean a lot. So thanks to everyone that joined in today. Really does mean a lot. And yeah. Oh, Mitch, you're trying to keep me on here a wee bit longer. Stay tuned, Mitch. We've done quite well. We've done some stuff. We've done some good stuff. But yeah, that'll all be coming out this week. And we may even talk about it tomorrow on the midweek deadline. I did well. Could have done better. But thanks for asking. I appreciate it. I would ask you how you're doing, but I do need to run. Feel free to let me know all the same anyway. I'll see you tomorrow. I'll catch you on all the content coming out. I keep going to do the Celtic outro and I'm looking at the wrong camera. But stay out of trouble. Catch you on the next one.